Alrighty guys, so Timmer here, and I just wanted to give you a quick introduction to Module 4 of I&M, which is our Internet of Things module. So to do this, you'll want to have some familiarity with the third semester materials, which give an introduction to Angular, where you learn the basics of how to use this code framework provided by Google. But in this module, we're going to use a little bit different creative use of this tool, which you might not have seen before, which is basically for being able to control things out there via the internet. So basically, we are going to create the user interface inside of Angular material, and then we are going to create a Firebase backend, Firebase being a hosted backend service which gives us real-time data. And at that point, you will be fully ready to start hooking up your Internet of Things devices via the Raspberry Pi in this case, which is a small microcomputer that we can use. It's a full Linux system, basically on one board. And we are going to use this to connect to Firebase for pushing sensory information, which can then appear inside your user interface. Now, along the way, we'll do some of the other things that we've visited in previous modules, such as hooking up user authentication, creating security for the application so that our data is nice and safe. We're going to create a little DAEMON application that can run on the Pi using Node. So you will see ways that you can use your skills with JavaScript in this interesting new way that hasn't really been available to us web developers before, but is opening up fascinating things that we can do. So let's dive straight on into the overview here. And so what we see is Module 4, Internet of Things. And right from the home page here, you can get to all the lessons and all the examples if you just want to plow your way right through things. But let's take a quick look at the overview. So in this module, we're going to be introducing a library called Angular Material. So this is a project by Google that adds quite a lot of the material design components to Angular, which is very nice in terms of making a very modern looking, highly responsive user interface for our application. Then we're going to dive straight on into some sensor work. This is the hardware that we're going to be using for hooking up a basic temperature sensor. It's called the DS18B20, a very common sensor for this type of thing. We'll use the one-wire protocol, which is what is going to allow us to read the temperature information from our sensor. And we could look at communicating it over XBEE, although in more recent times we've found some hardware that allows us to do Wi-Fi, basically, which is a little simpler. There's something called a Huzzah board from Adafruit. So I think we're going to actually change this module up a little bit, because that is such a beautiful little board to use that I see no reason to not make use of that. All right, so let's dive back on in to our overview here. And so the next thing that we'll be working with is Node. So we will get you up to speed and running with Node, which basically is a JavaScript processing engine that can run on a server, which is awesome because it basically opens up so many different environments for us to create JavaScript and run programs on. So we're going to do a Node installation onto Raspberry Pi. And so we'll show you how to get up and running, how to use modules with Node, your basic functions and connectivity. Yeah, so that's going to open up a whole wide world of things that we can do. We'll learn a bit about that system on a chip, which is the Raspberry Pi in this case. So let's take a quick look at what the project is itself. It's a home monitor project, and it builds on the member login project that we did in Module 3. We're going to use sensors on the Raspberry Pi to move real-world data into Firebase and present it in a slick material design using Angular material. So along the way, you're going to learn about Angular a little bit more than what we did in Module 3. You're going to learn more about Firebase, and we're going to learn to work inside of Node, which is super exciting. So in the first 5 lessons, we're going to work on the interface. So in lesson 1, we're just going to get down to the business of layout. So we're going to revisit some of our learning about the FLEXBOX, but then we're going to go a step further by seeing how the FLEXBOX is treated inside of this Angular material library that we're going to be working with. So we're going to learn a bit more about flex children and rows and layout and how to carve up the screen real estate that you've got and fill it with content. After that, after we've got the basic layout down, we're going to get into the material directives. So these are Angular directives that specifically have material design built into them. So if you're used to that design standard, which has become very popular since Google set that up, this will be right up your alley. So specifically, we're going to do some things like the toolbar, side navigation, a dialog box, a toast component, and so forth. Lots of cool stuff, and they've got a lot of great animations and styles built in, and we'll have something pretty nice up and running pretty quickly by using this library. It gives us a really cool shortcut. All right, so back into our agenda here. Following that, we will get into making it dynamic. So once we've got our static layout in place, we'll do the next step, which is to essentially use dummy data to get the whole thing dynamic, and then from there we'll start taking our dummy data over into Firebase. So the way that a project like this will work is that we follow a method that I usually call pushing the dummy. So basically, you start off by defining the data right inside of your application in JSON. Then you move it a step further out so that it is in your database, in this case Firebase. And then we move it a step further out from there, which will mean moving it onto the Raspberry Pi. And then finally, we're able to swap that out and replace it with real data that's coming from sensors. And because we followed the same format all the way through, it should just work and just flow into our interface with no problem at all. And now we're reading real data. Now, once we are doing that, then we're going to get into access control, because now once we have real data happening in the form of a daemon that is running on the Raspberry Pi, then we need to get into access control and basically protecting this data, since it's now real live legitimate data. So we'll show you how to do a login with password and make that all secure using the excellent authentication services that we find inside of Firebase. So this is a really exciting course and a lot of fun stuff. It's very cross-disciplinary because you're going to do a little bit of hardware hacking, you're going to do a little bit of real-time data work using Firebase, you're going to do a little bit of access control and security stuff, you're going to learn about the material design standard that Google has made popular, and then build on your knowledge of Angular, which is that excellent code framework provided by Google as well. So this is very modern stuff done in a pretty interesting way. You're gonna make something pretty cool. So I love it. I think you guys will enjoy it as well, and I look forward to working with you.